Right. So I have more environmental variables than users. That for me was a very real red flag as to something was off. Like something wasn't right in the way I was building things. And this kind of leads into the third point, which is probably the most important one, is by the start of a project, could be a to-do app, could be anything. I was looking at these services that allow me to scale infinitely. I could run something on the edge across the world, but I didn't have any users. I didn't have any app. I didn't have anything. And that's really one of the key points of this talk, is that the focus where we try to put our energy sometimes is misplaced. I don't understand why I do it, probably because I love it, but it always ends up this way. Not my biggest point of the night, but I think it's also worth noting that these things do happen. And these are articles in the last couple of months, right? So this is not unheard of, that these, whenever you put your credit card on one of these services, that things do happen. So we just need to understand that we are bounding ourselves to these companies and to these services. It's not like nothing is truly free. So don't.
It's like a Roku.
Yeah.
They were great until they started charging.
Basically. So
Roku is my hero.
yeah. Rest in peace.
Sorry, New Zealand.
Yeah. But so PlanetScale, I think it was 2 months ago, they removed their free tier. So all those side products are built on PlanetScale just kind of disappeared overnight.
That's crazy.
So it's just worth noting, but I would say don't let that scare you in using them. It's not just something worth noting. And this is the main point. Someone told me a long time ago, and this is a real quote by someone, but I don't know who. It's got fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And as engineers, we're literally trained to think about a solution. It's literally our job, and we love it. Like I would love to tell you how my product scaled across the world in seconds, how I can deliver in like low latency to millions of users. I would love to tell you about this, but like when I'm alone and trying to build something, try to get an idea out there, like I think it's a bit misplaced, and I don't think that's what we should be focusing on. So it's all about falling in love with the problem. But in this case, in that example at the beginning, it's a to-do app, right? If for some reason that's what you want to build, this should be the center of your project. It should not be Vercel. It should not be like PlanetScale, Superbase, whatever you're using to like build it up. Despite how amazing all these technologies are. So a bit of a controversial take. I think some people will disagree, but that's how I feel these days. And that quote is what allowed me to build products faster, better, more often, and just to be happier in the process of doing so. Right. So this is my personal side project manifesto. So it will not apply to everyone, but my biggest recommendation that I had is that everybody should write down a few basic principles on how they want to build something. Because once you put it on paper, it becomes real. It becomes like an actual fact of truth. So in my case, these are the principles I wrote, and I'll walk you through them very quickly. So I wrote down, I did that on a piece of paper. I just took a piece of paper, wrote it down. Technology choices should prioritize bringing our ideas to life and using our skills as a creative medium. That was the principle number one, which is pretty much what I've just mentioned before. The second one, I call it embrace imperfection. I think myself and probably quite a few of us will happily rewrite something at 10 times until it's perfect. We'll abstract like something that doesn't need abstraction. Like we hate repeating ourselves so much that we'll build these complicated systems around that when like, no, it's like, it's again, it's the wrong focus. So embracing imperfection really led me to like getting things out there. Third point, don't try to fix problems you do not yet have. I've also fallen down that rabbit hole way too often. It's kind of the job we do. We're trained to think about these problems. We're trained to build a software at scale. So it's like we're kind of almost hardwired to do this, but you don't need to. If you're trying to get your idea out there, like it's there's a people often say like if you have if after a few months you have a problem you need to scale up, that's a good problem to have. You don't need to solve it before it happens, especially when you have 0 users. So that's the fourth principle. And the fourth one is lock down your scope early. So some of you would know that like you have an idea and then you try to build up on top of it really often. So first it's that you do app and like, oh, but maybe I could use it for the to do management app, or maybe it'll integrate with emails, maybe you'll do this, and the creative juices start flowing and your scope grows out of proportion and you can't get your idea out there, which is also for me was a problem because I would fall in that I would fall down that path way too often and it just wasn't productive. Yeah, put a little TLDR here, just for fun. But like it is a peaceful life. Sometimes like just doing things that make you happier also make you more productive. At least it did for me.
It's a serverless edge runtime. Really?
In simple words, think your code running in every region of the world, very close to the user, so that they can deliver requests like a really, really short time. Yeah, but good question. Thanks, Blaze. So aside from the manifesto, I also made a few key decisions on the way I would build it, like the actual stack, which is typically what we talk about during these web dev meetups, like we share about our famous JS framework or something like that. So I kind of wrote down, all right, this is how it's gonna look. The first one I wrote is feature rich. So just because something is simple, as the name of the talk mentions, it doesn't mean it lacks features. It should still be like, it should still allow me to do whatever I need to, and with no compromises, or very few at least. Minimal integrations is, again, I do not want 100 environment variables just to get my product out there. I want it like easy and I want it to work. So this is something I was very, very strongly opinionated on. I didn't want that. The third one is a personal opinion, but a single code base makes it easier for me to reason about a project than splitting, say, API and front end separately, and then you have to build things twice. So no matter what I do, it has to fit within one folder. Like that was the rule. I was not going to break that rule, like at all. Pain-free deployment is the fourth principle, which I think is pretty understandable. Same reason, if I start doing a lot of effort just to get it out there, it's actually not beneficial in my way. I love building pipelines. They get things out deployed easily, automatically, but that was the wrong time. Vertical scaling is an interesting one. I have made a decision early on, and notably through knowing the right technologies, which I'll explain there, that I made a decision that it was not going to scale horizontally. It's going to be a single app to run in one place, and it's going to be fast. And worst case, I just crank up the CPU, get a few more requests out there. But thinking in this way, once you commit to this principle, and actually to most of these principles, once you commit to it, it's much easier to do, right? So maybe it's controversial. Most of us, like by our job, pushes us to build horizontally scalable platforms. It's like nobody in a real business setting will ever say my design is vertically scalable. Very few, at least. So, are there any questions before I continue? So now that we've kind of defined like what the side project would look like, the kind of basic principles, but now I actually have to pick some technologies because that's like I'm not going to go without it. And the first one, many of you will recognize this, is Golang. And I like to call it the good kind of boring. That's where Reese and I disagree. It's oh yeah. This one. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. So I can explain this simply is that it's a very simple language. You can learn it in a day. And that's also its magic is if let's say you were to learn Kotlin, Elixir, all these complicated languages, and they have so many features. They make us feel good, and that's the feature. Like, oh, this Golang does not make me feel good. Okay.
So never mind. All right.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, so Golang does not make me feel good. I don't love it. I like it. It doesn't spark joy in me. Not like learning a new language would, but that's also the point. Like, I shouldn't be focused on the language. I should be focused on solving problems. And I've done that in the past where I've picked up languages, like sometimes like unknown wild languages to build projects, and that's because
JavaScript.
no, not JavaScript. I once used something called MoonScript to yeah, but nobody uses it.
What about coffee?
Coffee,
Coffee's
like rest in peace. We're over that. But yeah, it's like it's important to understand that we choose technology based on how we feel about them a lot of the times, and a lot of us are not willing to admit that this is going against it. I don't want to do Golang. I mean, I like it, but it's like doesn't spark joy. But at least it gets me to do all the things I need to do and focus on the right things. So there's a very conscious decision that I wanted to use Golang. As a side note, it has all these cool features. It's a very good language. I recommend it, and it's really fast. I don't generally encourage like performance as a key definition for the defining factor for a technology, but I am scaling vertically, so it's like it's worth noting that like getting something efficient is like it's gonna happen. So that was the first piece of the puzzle. And now I'm going to talk about the second piece of the puzzle. Some of you already know about that one. And it's arguably the most interesting one. It's a CMS called Pocketbase. So some of you already know about Pocketbase. And I have a GitHub repo with all my code. I'll show you later. And you guys can access it, clone it, do whatever you want. It's designed as a SQLite-based CMS, which scales vertically. And the way you use it is you basically write a few lines of code and it's running. And then it has all amazing features that like normally I would get from services, but it has all built into single file, and you can get it running in like a minute. It's that simple. It's incredibly good.
What's a CMS?
Is that another one of these?
Some people might know that.
Right. So for reference, in case of know, CMS is a content management system, but in this case, you think of it as a framework. It comes built in with user management, emails, file storage, job scheduling, and admin panel. One of my favorite features, it creates migration files for you. So if one of you like hates like modeling databases, you can just go in the UI, create a model, and you'll have a migration file like ready to go on your file system. It's like magic. The reason it's not popular is because it's virtually scalable, and people want like this kind of distributed system. This one's not. But once I made the commitment that it was not going to be distributed, I opened up a door to this one, and I will show you guys later. I'll open it like an editor and a GitHub repo. I'll show you a little bit of all that later. So some of you are probably expecting a little bit of that, but yeah, I do need to build a UI, like because it is a full stack framework that I'm trying to build, and I made the decision to use HTMX alongside some templating language. Temple is a very good Golang templating language. And the reason I picked these over trying to build like a React or Svelte or anything like that, is mainly because first I had committed already to a single code base, and I had committed to Golang. So like it gets more and more complicated to integrate React or Svelte with these frameworks. And also, because these are like a drop-in libraries, it kind of keeps it simple. I'm not committing to that technology as much as I would be if I was like, I'm going to build in Next.js or something like this. And that really fits into the purpose, which was just keeping simple, get things out there, use whatever I need to get the project where I want to be. That's what I'm doing.
So it's light to start with, and then you can.
Exactly. Most of these can be dropped in your code with a single line. And you see there's a little wine glass at the bottom. So that's because I think some of these pair really well with each other. So for example, HTMX, for those of you who don't know, is basically a way that through your HTML code, you can you can write like instructions that fire like piece of HTML down from the server. And that's how the server can update your app. It like sends these little pieces of code and then get updated. But when you send these kind of HTML pieces of code, you want styling to be embedded in it. Otherwise, you need to figure out another way to get the styling in there. And that's where tailoring comes in. It works really well together because I can take that piece of code and can throw it in basically any web page and it would behave the same way because the styling is kind of embedded in it. It's not dependent on a separate style, which was like the kind of the principle. So that's just to show you that by pairing the right technologies together, you actually you can get something really, really nice. And if anybody wants to argue why using HTMX is worse than a SVA or Next.js, I'm sure we can find a lot of arguments, but I guess in the moment where I made these decisions, I was just trying to get something out there. Like I said, it was not necessarily about the best, and I can argue that it's pretty good. I'll say that. All right. This is a very, very short slide. This is just to tell you that there are some really cool developer experience features. So Air is a Golang tool that just library loads whenever you make a change. So the experience of like writing it's not as bad as some might think, because some of you might be thinking, oh, I need to compile it, get it together. But these tools have been built by the community, and they do make things easier, more fun. So I'm just putting that out there just so that some of you don't feel like it's gonna be a poor experience to write. Right. And the final piece of the puzzle is the deployment. And this method that I found is actually a bit of a contradiction to my principles, because you'll notice the icon in the middle is Cloudflare. So I tried 0 integrations, I failed. There is 1 integration. And I've decided that I wanted to host it from my computer or my Raspberry Pi. I wanted it to be that simple that I can press a button and it's just out there. And I found that Cloudflare tunnels are extremely, extremely good at doing so. You benefit from all the caching that Cloudflare provides. All it takes is just running your tunnel, the small container, a small app next to your server. You don't need to change your code to get this to work. You don't need to modify anything you've done. You just need to run it next to your app. And just like magic, your app is available to all the others.
Similar to ngrok, or
yeah, ngrok used to do that. The difference being that ngrok, I believe at the time, didn't have caching, right? So you still benefit from a global CDN, and which is like, given that I'm running this on a Raspberry Pi, I'll take this. Right. So
don't forget your cache headers.
yes, correct. Yeah, don't forget to cache headers, otherwise it doesn't work as well as as I say. So before I hop into the code and show you a little bit how it looks, I think this is what I want everybody to remember, is that sometimes it's more important to get engineering out of the way than it is to add engineering. But we're trained to just add stuff on top to get it better. But sometimes you just need to get it out of the way and just kind of bring it home. Just finish your project, make it make it nice, be happy about the product, not necessarily about how well it's. Yeah, this is it. Before I move on to the quick code showcase, any questions?
First question, you said you was on your Raspberry Pi boards at single board, like a single board. Second question, are you afraid about security? Because you're actually putting up the home network.
You're not. Okay. Yeah. The Cloudflare basically opens up a socket.
Okay.
Yeah. So your IP is never exposed anywhere, right? I could run it from my phone from here, from anywhere. I could just move it to another place. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so simple.
Okay.
Like it takes. I'll show you in a bit. It takes 5 seconds to set up.
Does Cloudflare have a cost?
So that is one of the. So it does have to a degree. Most of the caching features are free for a really, really long time. So unless you like bombard it with a high request, yeah, you might have some. You don't have to put a credit card though. So Cloudflare doesn't have a good reputation right now. They have had some mishaps, right? But it's still the best version I found of running an app like just from my laptop. Like ngrok was another option. So so I failed to some degree to get my principles perfect. But I'm still pretty happy with it.
Just before you move on.
Yeah.
You said vertically scaling.
Yeah.
What's the opposite, like the alternative?
Horizontal scaling.
So as in like,
So if you spin up like one machine and your request count goes up, stop spinning up more machines.
So this way it's just the same machine, but
it's like you just
allocation.
Yeah, you just increase the CPU, and the limit will be just how big the machine is. Eventually. Yeah.
So it's only the resources, or you also
You can hear something.
do you keep the state and session on that machine, or is it stateless?
It's not stateless. It's so because it's SQLite based, you basically have file on that device.
So if you want to spin up another one, like this one dies.
You can make a clone of the database, but you could not like replicate it. No? This is why so I kind of gave up on replication for the sake of getting out of it. So side note, people have those ways to replicate it by now. So you can. You also have different patterns you can try, which are not common, where you actually have your data in a centralized place, say an Excel spreadsheet or an Airtable. I've used Airtable, and you can actually have these like little kind of servers which have their own database. They're actually like they just pull down data and become clones of each other, and then you can scale like horizontally to some degree. So which is a really kind of nice pattern, but I don't have to do like a database backup. Like if the container dies, it just syncs up from the source data, which is kind of cool. It's a way of scaling. I didn't include it here because the whole point was you don't need to scale. So yeah, there are options. SQLite is incredibly fast, incredibly good when configured well, and Pocket-based configured that really well. So the performance it gives you is like really high.
Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about a single project, but you need to the same principle for multiple projects.
Well, the last few projects I've done have been using this time.
Okay.
Right. In the past, I didn't have it.
Okay.
Right. So they were kind of like all over the place. Like it was not an intentional design. The way we built it, like, oh, I'll just pull down this service, I'll pull down that service. Then things happen. It's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all over the place. Yeah, I think some communities, like the Ruby on Rails communities, they kind of have that pattern. It's very fixed, very well structured, and they're really happy with it. Some other like communities, it's not as well defined. So it ends up being a bit more like you pull that down, you try this, you try that. It's still fun. All right.
Question.
Yeah.
I kind of want to challenge your premise of side projects not being about learning new skills and what everybody else has made that you do apps. So
yes,
why make it do that?
So my point was that it's not about learning skills. If you remember the Venn diagram at the beginning, my point is I'm not talking about that part. It's like this kind of project, you have to use the technology that you're trying to learn. There's no other option. What I'm trying to cater for is all the other projects when you're actually trying to just get an idea out there. So if you're trying to learn a skill or technology, you have to use the technology. Like there's no. I'm not saying it's not something you have to do. It's more like this is not what I'm trying to achieve, and if, all I said now will not help you in learning technology unless pocket based and Golang are that technology, essentially. So good point. Yeah.
You mentioned you need to get as many features in. You also mentioned migrations, but then I guess the challenge I always face is when you start introducing new features and you have an existing data, you need to migrate it and you want to bolt things on. How do you find what's the most efficient way to introduce new features but keep the existing state and data working?
Yeah. So my reference feature earlier was about the technology being feature rich, which is mainly points to pocket base, right? So it comes built in with APIs, data migration. But if you're talking about features that you built on top, there is a point, the more complex it gets, that there's no avoidance, that you might have to like get things mixed up together, get your hands dirty, get it to work. But having this tool that just create my migrations for me, and that this will get me like the first like version, first release, the MVP out so much faster than if I had to do all that hardwiring myself. I had to build on the migrations and that, like, et cetera, et cetera. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other question? All right, cool. I'll switch over to let's exit. I just want to show you guys really quickly. So I put everything in this GitHub repo, which is basically if you clone it and run it, it'll essentially be the stack that I just told you about. It has Pocket Base, it has Golang, it has everything in it. Can you guys see? Maybe I can zoom a bit. Yeah. Yeah, and I named it pretty much the same title as the stock. It has the few design principles here. I also included some why I chose the technology, etc. So you can just pull it and just run it. It has internals, etc. And I'll show you a bit of the code. If I switch back to my IDE now, I might have to zoom in, but let me see. So this is my Docker Compose, right? And you can see at the top is my little server. So if anyone is not familiar with Docker, it's just a way of packaging the applications and running them. And all I need to do to get it out in the world is add the Cloudflare container next to it, which is that second block at the bottom. So that literally deploys it for me just by running it. So actually I can do it. So before I run it in front of me, notice that this is not intrusive. I'm not modifying anything of my application to get it running, and I can remove this at any time with zero impact on my project. That's also beneficial. But if I go into my terminal, just remove this, and I run my my Docker stack, I am on a hotspot, so let's hope it's okay. So then I should pretty much get. Oh, Zoom crashed again.
Also use Zoom. Yeah.
So Reese uses Zoom.
It's good for a lot of things. Oh.
Yeah. So
I thought you liked China. No.
yeah. So my internet is dying. So because I'm doing a demo, so it has to go wrong. But this is basically, hopefully it loads in a second. This is actually like running it from my laptop, and it's hooked to a domain name. So like once I don't know if you guys can see, but like, this is an actual domain name at the top. It's not localhost, and eventually it'll load once my connection recovers. Anytime now.
It's always when you do.
It's always.
There you
There you go.
The Wi-Fi is.
There you go. Okay, there you go. This is the app. It's running on my local machine. This is going through Cloudflare and being like delivered. Actually, let me share again. So, so this is like, you notice that the time is like running, counting at the bottom. That little piece is coming straight from the machine. This one isn't cached. So it was just a way to demo that if I kill this, then the time stops because I just steal my credit from my local machine. And if let's see, if I go to the inspector, notice that now I just killed the container, but it's still cached, most of it. It's all Cloudflare now, just like running it for me.
So you just refresh the page and it loads
And-
everything except the dynamic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything has been cached still there because that's just a way to prove that it went through Cloudflare.
Yeah.
It's being saved. So if let's say you were to use this stack, you were to pull it down, and obviously feel free to swap out any pieces. Like you can run something real within minutes. Like you don't need to like sign up to anything. No, it just works. And that's what allowed me to just get my ideas out there. That was the premise. Right, that's it. Thank you everyone. If there's any questions.
Dennis, how do you manage multiple projects? Like, let's say, for example, you've got the steps that
Yeah.
here. Do you also apply the same principle of like, the all one folder?
I'm trying to use as many to like stick to the principle based on what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So your example, like if what I'm trying to achieve is to learn React or something, I'm not gonna follow this principle.
Yeah.
If what I'm trying to achieve is bring an idea to life, then these principles work for me.
Mhm.
So, and I recommend everyone just like write your own principles. You can take these, try it out. But at the end of the day, to write your own principles, then you can actually like do something that works for you, depending on what you want. And my goal was to get it out quick, and that worked. Thank you, everyone. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah,
Oh,
it works.
yeah. I do have one question.
Yeah.
So you have to have that server running all the time on your machine. I guess you put it on the fire.
Yeah, you can put it on Raspberry Pi,
Yeah.
or you can also like take a really cheap like EC2 or like a processor if you wanted to. That works as well. Yeah, it's just easy.
And you know a lot of cool new technology. Where do you find out about them? GitHub, or are you reading Medium?
I actually follow the GitHub feed.
Yeah.
And there's also a Fireship YouTube channel, which I think most of the
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Classic. It's
Yeah, that's how I learned about Pocket Base is like Fireship. Oh yeah, Pocket Base, like really quickly, I'll just go on the website. Yeah. Yeah, so this is Pocket Base. Highly recommend for it. Every person that I know who's used it, love it. It just works. It's really great.
Pocket Base in 100 seconds.
Yeah, there is one. I'm pretty sure there is one. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really good. Like no lie, I've never seen something that works so well so fast without like having to read a ton of stuff.